Okey, baik. Untuk waktu ini menjelang belanjawan 2025 juga kita nak melihat dari segi isu percukaian. Kerana ramai orang sebenarnya tak suka nak bercakap isu cukai ni, tapi penting untuk kita ambil tahu kerana ini juga mungkin akan ada perubahan-perubahan struktur tertentu di dalam belanjawan 2025 nanti. Bersama dengan saya di studio, Farah Rosli, Tax Managing Partner EY Malaysia. Farah, thank you so much for being with us today. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Harith.
First of all, Farah, in your opinion, how should the Malaysia Budget 2025 address the corporate tax structure and particularly for SMEs? Yeah.
Yeah. So for SMEs in particular,
Yeah.
the main issue is sustainability of the business, whether they can continue
Yeah.
to expand and continue to thrive, as well as continue to be competitive. So in the past, the corporate tax for for SMEs have been reducing. So there is a preferential rate for SMEs that helps them to plow back that tax savings from the reduced rate to continue to expand for the purpose of the business. So the usual corporate tax rate is 24% for normal businesses, but for SMEs, it has reduced to 15%. For those with chargeable income, meaning pendapatan bercukai, 15 below 150,000 revenue per se, it will be 15%. And it graduates going up to 17%, 19%, and then 24%, the normal rate. But what would have been good is the 150,000 is a small income that is sheltered under 15%. So if it's possible, if that can be expanded to be increased, so that a higher portion of the income would be given a lower tax rate, and that would help SMEs in actually utilizing back the tax. Of course, no one likes to talk about tax, and maybe paying taxes is seen as probably a burden to business, but it is the hope that any of that tax savings can be used for the business to actually continue to generate more income for the SMEs.
Yeah, and of course, people are, especially business players, are looking forward in terms of incentives. So maybe what tax incentives or reliefs you think that could be introduced to support SMEs in Belanjawan 2025, and also especially to grow them and then to adapt on digital transformation? Farah?
Yeah, so incentives is again, no one likes to talk about tax, but everyone likes to talk about incentives, right? Because incentives is given to hopefully elevate the cost of doing business, as well as given like some support to the business to ensure that they continue to be competitive, in particular SMEs, because of the challenges, and some of them have not even gotten out of the situation post-pandemic.
Post-pandemic,
yeah. So they're still, some of them are still recovering, and some are shifting the business model to ensure that they continue to be sustainable, right? And Harith, you mentioned a very important point, which is digitalization or automation, which will help the business to be efficient. So in the past budget, there was already a 50,000 tax deduction that's been given for SMEs for each year of assessment. This 50,000 can be used to support its implementation of e-invoice. So e-invoicing is one form of digitalization as well. In addition, I think it is hope that further deductions, for example, or reliefs or credits, tax credits maybe can be given for companies or businesses that automate their process. There are some already available, so I would encourage the SMEs out there to search or to look at some of these tax deductions that is available. Some of them is also in the Inland Revenue Board or Hasil website. If you look at it, it is in there. And also you can look into other sources as well within MIDA or within other agencies. There are deductions given, but it is hoped that in Budget 2025, SMEs are also given emphasis and deductions such as training costs of the employee to upskill or reskill their people. I mentioned just now innovation expenditure. And also there is another one which is good for SMEs, which is a deduction on capital allowance for small value assets, meaning you can expense or 100% the entire expenses if they purchase small value assets.
Farah, given the global push for a fairer corporate tax rates, how do you think Malaysia corporate tax rate should evolve to remain competitive, especially in this region?
Yeah, very good question, Hari. Actually, the tax rate around the region and around the world, the competition is not going up, it's going down. The tax rate has been going down. Malaysia tax rate has remained stagnant at 24%. SMEs is, of course, been going down at certain bracket, but for the general businesses, corporate tax rate has been 24% for a few years, 4-5 years. It was on a reducing trend, but it has been stagnant, 24%. My personal view, Arif, is that the only way that the tax rate can go down is if there is any other broad-based tax that will be introduced. Because otherwise, it will be a pressure, kekangan to income of the government, right? Because the government needs to collect taxes for their own revenue to fill up their coffers, kan? So the only way of reducing any more of our corporate tax rate is if there is any other taxes, broad-based tax or consumption tax that has been introduced. So in Malaysia, we don't have VAT, we don't have GST, we have SST, which has been increased for certain type of services to 8%. But other countries around the region, we all know Singapore is at 17%. Philippines is a bit high. Indonesia is more or less around our percentage rate. Thailand is also slightly reducing their tax rate, but I think there's still room to reduce our tax rate, but of course maybe selectively on maybe certain segments of the business like SMEs where the tax rate is being reduced, or perhaps a way to look at expanding our tax base so that it's broader to capture any type of activity that has slipped off from the economy. Like for example, e-invoicing. Invoicing is a way, not immediate, but maybe another 3 or 4 years we see the income coming back to us.
Previously, you mentioned about digital transformation and how SMEs should adapt to digital transformation. And what changes in taxation of digital services and e-commerce do you foresee being part of the Malaysia budget 2025, and given the rise of digital economy, Farah?
There is already guidance on taxation of digital economy, and there are already certain taxes that has been introduced to tax online or e-commerce business. My view is in that that should continue. Because just like the usual brick and mortar business, they are being taxed. The online business also, and that's the way forward. You don't need to have a shop, you don't need to have an outlet to sell. You can actually conduct business anywhere to anywhere. Right. So I think that will stay. Taxation of e-commerce will stay. But the one thing that we can consider for budget 2025 is perhaps improvements in terms of encouragement to business to morph or to move towards conducting the business or enabling them to be able to transact in a digital economy.
In your view, should the government expand the digital tax on foreign services? Okay. How would that impact online transactions in Malaysia? If yes,
we need to have an equal playing field as well for local businesses, as well as foreign digital service provider. So that's why there's also the tax on digital service provider. The tax was already introduced to ensure then that if the local service providers are being hit with certain amount of tax, the foreign digital service provider should also be imposed with similar taxes. So that is actually the right move to ensure that there is equal treatment for both local and foreign players, foreign service providers. But at the same time, as I've mentioned, Kan Harith, it is important to ensure then that the ecosystem enables the business to continue to innovate and digitalize their means to do business, so that they can continue to thrive and being able to transact or conduct the business in the digital economy.
I would like to bring our discussion into sustainability, green initiative that has been conducted, and also continuously implement, not just among corporate companies, but also among SMEs to adapt on green initiative in their businesses. What are your thoughts on the potential introduction or expansion of carbon taxation, for example, in Malaysia, and how could it impact businesses?
In my view, Kan Harith, there is a need to alleviate, I would say, financial barriers for businesses to continue to invest in, for example, green technologies or green initiatives, and it should go throughout the entire green ecosystem, right, end to end, so that there's support, right. Someone can actually have green machinery, but there is no discharge mechanism to dispose of wastewater, for example. So the water still goes to our nature. I'm very passionate about green, about sustainability, because that is our future, right? I mean, we only have one Earth, and green technology. In Malaysia, we already have Green Technology Master Plan. We also have the National Renewable Energy Transmission Roadmap as well. And that is also hand in hand with the National Industrial Master Plan. So in all those national blueprints or master plan that the government is saying, there is already initiatives, efforts, policies that has been designed to look at green initiatives, and also including green taxes, for example, right? We don't have carbon taxes just yet in Malaysia. Maybe it's timely for us to start consider carbon taxes. Singapore has introduced carbon tax in 2019 at a very low rate first, and usual tax will only go up. And Thailand has already announced, and they will introduce that carbon tax in 2025. Important thing, but the most important thing is to allow time for businesses to prepare themselves. If there's going to be any impending new taxes that's going to be introduced, there must be clarity in terms of how it's going to be implemented, how businesses should look at it, what would be the legislation or the guidelines supporting that the new tax, for example, that if it's going to be introduced, and it's sufficient time for businesses to implement the new tax.
Farah, lastly, maybe just in general, your hopes towards budget 2025, and also what are you look forward, especially in terms of maybe need some readjustment, realignments on some maybe concession tax, or what's your hopes, lastly, in about 1-2 minutes of our discussion here?
So if I have a genie in front of me and I can make my wish,
crystal ball,
or if I have a crystal ball and can see what is going to be coming, like Harith, I would think then that what is important is policies. It may not be tax, it may not be incentive, but policies that would support businesses to continue to thrive and to grow in this challenging environment. Secondly, upskilling and reskilling of people and employees as well as resources, because it's important. We talk about technology, we talk about digitalization, we talk about sustainable initiatives and all that. These are all new things that has not been spoken of 10 years ago. So employees, people need to be equipped and need to be trained. So maybe initiatives or policies that support growth of people and growth of Malaysians, so that they have the right skills that could support the industries.